The carriage wound its way up the steep, serpentine road toward Bran Castle, the fortress that once watched over the border between Wallachia and Transylvania. The autumn fog was thick enough to taste cold and faintly metallic. Each twist of the mountain path revealed a glimpse of black turrets and the pale walls of the castle glowing faintly in moonlight. Inside the carriage sat Dr. Amelia Weiss, a musicologist from Vienna, her gloved hands resting atop a leather portfolio filled with notes and sketches. She had been summoned by the Countess of Bran herself to restore an ancient pipe organ that had not been played in nearly 200 years. Emilia had spent her life chasing the sounds of forgotten instruments, baroque cellos, broken harpsichords, cracked vials. But something about this invitation felt different. The letter had been written in careful script and sealed in crimson wax. It read only, "The organ awaits. It plays itself each Halloween. Come and help me silence it." When she arrived, the great doors opened before she could knock. A servant, pale, almost translucent in the torchlight, greeted her without a word. His eyes looked as though they hadn't seen sunlight in decades. The castle's corridors smelled of old stone and candle grease. As she followed the servant through winding halls, she could hear faint echoes, a low hum, almost like the exhale of wind through pipes. The Countess met her in the main hall, tall, graceful, dressed entirely in black velvet. Her eyes were gray, sharp as steel. "Welcome, Dr. Weiss," she said softly. "You've come a long way to mend something that cannot die." Emilia smiled, unsure whether it was meant as poetry or warning. The organ sat in the castle's chapel, a vast cathedral-like space buried within the mountain itself. It was magnificent and monstrous, carved from dark oak, its pipes rising up the wall like a forest of spears. The keys were yellowed ivory, and the stops were shaped like faces, cherubs, demons, monks, all frozen in expressions of ecstasy or agony. When Amelia laid her fingers on the keys, a deep vibration rippled through the floor. It was not a note, but a sigh. She drew back. "The air must be shifting in the pipes," she said quickly. "Old wood breathes strangely." The Countess only nodded. "It does breathe, especially on Halloween." That night, Emilia worked by candlelight. She removed the lower panels, dusted the reeds, cleaned the stops. Inside the chamber of pipes, she found something curious. Thin strips of parchment rolled into coils. Each one had a name written in it, in faded brown ink, 20 in total. When she unrolled the last one, she froze. It bore the name Elena Weiss. Her grandmother. Emilia's breath caught. Her grandmother had been a pianist, a recluse who died before Emilia was born, but the name, the handwriting, even the accent marks were unmistakable. "How could this be?" she whispered. And then, softly, from behind her a single note played, a low, resonant C. No one was sitting at the bench. She turned sharply, heart pounding. The candle flickered and then, one by one, the pipes began to breathe. A sound rose, not quite music, not quite wind. It was a chorus of human voices, layered and distant, each note trembling with sorrow. She ran her fingers across the keys. The sound stopped instantly. The air fell silent, heavy, expectant. When she looked down, her fingertips were stained dark, as though she had touched ink or blood. The next morning, the Countess found her still in the chapel, exhausted but curious. "I think the organ was built from something other than wood," Emilia said quietly. "It vibrates like bone." The Countess didn't deny it. "It was built by a monk named Severin centuries ago," she said. "He crafted it after the plague, using what was left of his brothers. He said the organ would carry their prayers forever." Emilia stared at her. "You mean the pipes?" "Yes," said the Countess. "Each one is a rib, hollowed and sealed with pitch. Every Halloween, the castle forces their song through the air. I have tried for years to silence it, but the organ only accepts music from blood." That evening, Emilia tried to test the theory. She placed her hand on the lowest pipe and pressed gently. A pulse beat beneath it, faint but unmistakable. Her breath hitched. The organ was alive. Determined to understand, she decided to play it herself. The Countess begged her not to. "Once it knows your song," she said, "it will want your breath forever." But curiosity, that old fatal chord, had already been struck. At midnight, Amelia sat at the bench. The candles burned low. The moon turned red behind the stained glass, and the wind howled like distant choirs. She pressed the first key. The organ roared to life. Sound burst from the pipe's waves of harmony so powerful the chandeliers trembled. It wasn't music, it was memory. She heard laughter, sobbing, prayers. Every note contained a voice, a confession, a name, a plea. "Elena Weiss," they whispered. "Play us home." Her grandmother's voice among them. It was impossible, and yet unmistakable. Amelia played faster, tears streaming down her face. The more she played, the more the organ seemed to breathe in, out, louder, fuller, until the air itself pulsed like lungs. The Countess burst into the chapel. "Stop!" she screamed. But Amelia couldn't. Her hands were no longer her own. The pipes glowed red, one by one. The sound reached a pitch beyond hearing, a vibration that made the stone walls bleed dust. The Countess fell to her knees, crying. "She's joined them," she whispered. At the peak of the music, the candles went out. Silence. And then, one final note, soft as a sigh. When dawn came, the castle was quiet again. The servants found the chapel door locked. When they broke it open, the bench was empty. But the organ had changed. A new pipe had appeared, smaller, smoother, carved with faint initials, E.W. That night, the Countess lit a single candle and sat before the instrument. She pressed one key. A single voice rose from within, clear, young, trembling with both wonder and fear. "Grandmother, I hear you." The Countess wept quietly. "And now," she whispered, "I can rest." She blew out the candle, and the sound faded into the night, a gentle exhale that seemed almost human. Outside, the first snow began to fall over the towers of Bran Castle, covering everything in white. But deep inside its chapel, something still breathed slow, rhythmic, eternal, the heartbeat of a music that would never end.